Welcome back, everyone, to this very special Unscrupulousness Fantasy Cast. I believe it's episode 3, don't quote me on that, of the 2024-2025 season. This episode is brought to you by Trackside Storage, where we treat yours, like ours. I've been working on that for weeks. I knew I was going to get it flipped, but I'm going to have many more chances to get that right. Unfortunately, Kiefer and I were extremely busy this season, never got around to recording as many episodes as we'd like. But we have an extra special episode for the league tonight because we have, for the first time ever, never been done before, the Championship Fantasy Cast episode. Nothing but winners here, folks. Tonight's episode will feature the 2 teams that have made it to the championship round of the Unscrupulousness Fantasy Football League. So without further ado, let's get to the introductions. First, we have the 2020 Unscrupulousness champion and 2024 regular season top finisher, owner and on-site security of Puyallup's #1 RV and personal storage company, Trackside Storage, the principal of Aylen Junior High, the world's best junior high, father of 5, husband to 1, the one and only Thomas Ostrander. And before you say anything, I've got to introduce myself. And of course, yours truly, the 8-time Unscrupulousness champion, founding father, and co-host of your favorite fantasy football league-specific podcast, your host for tonight, Jake Curtis. Welcome in, Thomas. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Jake. I mean, it's tough to follow that up. 8-time. I really like the emphasis on 8-time champion.
8-time champion.
I only have one title. I only have one under my belt, so I don't know how I follow that up.
That was during my production meeting by myself yesterday when I was doing my own research. I was shocked. I would have put you at 3. Honestly, like I had no idea. You have been. Is that not? That's surprising.
So I've been in the semifinals. This is 3 years in a row.
Yeah.
That I've been in the semifinals. The last 2 years, I've lost to Tim. 2 years in a row, I lost to Tim in the semis.
2 years in a row to the newcomer.
And it was year 1 when he took over Chase's
roster,
and it completely revamped how we look at drafting wide receivers.
It changed everything. It really did.
Which is what won the title for you last year.
Correct. That's correct. That
was the way that you drafted the wideouts, and it was changed by Chase's snafu.
Yes.
Which then kind of revamped everything.
Yeah. It's a watershed moment.
I've been in the hunt for a lot of times, but I've only once have I walked away with the title. So.
And then there was it not 2 years in a row that Sam won and you were in the championship, or am I misremembering that?
I think there's, I mean, I think last 2 years was semifinals I lost, and then I think I did lose maybe 2 years in a row in the championship. I don't know. It's been a run of I've been right there, but I haven't won it. So
so that was surprising. All right, so Thomas and I came up with this idea a couple of days ago, and just wanted to be clear before we got too far into this. Thomas has no idea what's coming next. So we had some different ideas of how we were going to do this episode, and I was thinking about sharing some questions with him, and so he could prepare some answers. But I decided to let's just keep him on his toes. And so the first thing we're going to do, segment number 1, is league history quiz. Okay, so I've got some questions here, and Thomas is gonna. And I wish I had more, but I tried to keep the episode short. But the first question, going way back to 2007, 2006, maybe, which Thomas was not in the league, so this might be a difficult one for him to answer. Who were the original founding fathers? And I will give you a hint. There were 4.
So Jake, Kiefer, Chase.
Yes, those are the easy 3.
And then was Dan?
No, Dan joined must have been 2010. I didn't meet Dan until 2010.
Okay, because I know he's been in the league longer than I have.
Yep.
Dude, I don't think I know this person.
So you don't know one of them. Kiefer and I were actually discussing this before he was helping me out with some of these questions. We're not sure. So this is a tough question for you to answer because the two of the four founding fathers don't really know. We have a faint memory of Blake actually being a part of the first draft. However, and this is worth writing down for you listeners out there if you want to join the Jeopardy later. The first draft of this league was on Yahoo, and we immediately switched to ESPN and redrafted. So the first draft took place twice. And I believe Blake was in on that draft. And when we all decided to redraft, he was like, I'm out. And so then Jason Papageorge, we really think is the fourth original.
Is that a real
father.
name? That's a real.
That is a real name. Jason Papageorge. We used to call him Slappageorge, but Jason Papageorge was Kiefer's good friend from high school, and so it was 4 Rogers High School alum.
Wow,
the original founding fathers. Now, who are the 3 remaining and now referred to as the founding fathers?
Who are they?
Yeah.
I mean, I named 3. Well, Chase isn't on it anymore, but
right.
So you're saying like who kind of
So when we
Dan
use that,
2010, there's somebody older than Dan. No, Dan's part of that, right?
Dan is that. Yeah, Dan replaced Chase. Yeah, that's essentially right. And so we refer to Dan as a founding father, but it's really with an asterisk because he wasn't. But he has league manager powers, and so he is considered a founding father. And
good
early
for
enough,
you, Dan. Good for you, Dan.
He's been instrumental in a lot of rules during the league, sort of keeping Kiefer and I in check, making sure the league doesn't get too crazy. Okay. Last question, league history quiz for Thomas. What year did you enter the league?
Man, for some reason I had a feeling you would ask that. Dude, that's a good question. So I won it in 2020, you said. So, I mean, there was like a stint there. Like I just had a tough time wrapping my head around your drafting and your rules. I feel like I didn't make the playoffs and my team sucked for a while. 2017, maybe earlier than that, 2016.
So this is your 10th year anniversary in the league. You joined the league in 2014. Wow. Isn't that
holy cow? I didn't realize it had been that long.
I hadn't either.
Wow.
That was
one title.
Then
shocking. I suck at fantasy football. If it's 10 years and I've only won one time, I'm terrible, dude.
Oh no, it's I'll never forget the first draft in the Bonnie Lake house. I told Dan and Dave to get you nice and liquored up, and they did they kept feeding you drinks during the draft, and this is a common mistake. This league is the weirdest league in the world, and so I just remember you thought you were killing the draft. You were getting these wide receivers left and right, and of course the league was originally built on running backs, and that's true, but in 2018, we decided with Dan's help to implement PPR, right? And that changed things in a way that not everyone understood until Chase ruined his draft. Tim took over and almost won it with no running backs. The 0 running back strategy in a league designed for running backs. It's wild.
Wow.
It's wild. All right, we're going to move on to the next segment, but we do have a word from our top sponsor tonight. Hey folks, you know what makes the holidays really magical? Family. And do you know who knows about family? The fine people at Trackside Storage in Puyallup, Washington. Family owned and operated since 1993. They've been keeping your extra stuff safe and sound longer than most of us have been keeping New Year's resolutions. And this holiday season, they're feeling extra generous. With their special promo code, brace yourselves, PARKITATTRACKSIDEFORFREE, you get the first 5 years of storage for free. Yep, you heard that right. 5 years of free storage. That's enough time to forget what's even in your storage unit. Need a place to park your holiday decorations, your grandma's weird antique chair, or maybe just your regrets from this year's fantasy draft? Trackside Storage has got you covered, because at Trackside, we treat yours like ours.
That was good. Not
Thank you.
only am I not good at fantasy football, I'm also a horrible business owner by giving out that promo code, 5 years for free.
Never done before. That's, I mean,
wow, what a deal.
Yeah, hopefully you got tons of space ready. All right.
That's
so
good.
This one's gonna...
Who wrote that ad for you?
ChatGPT, about 99% of it, but I had to add some flair. Let's see, what did I add? No, I really just took out some words. Yeah, that's 100% ChatGPT.
That was good. That was too good.
Segment number 2. I just want to hear your thoughts. This can be a quick one too. I just want to hear your thoughts about your matchup with Dan. How did you think your semifinal matchup with Dan went?
I mean, he with the score he had, the 2 weeks he had, he wins 99% of the time. So I felt very fortunate that I had that 1% of the second highest score of all time. And I was gonna make a sub. I think you know this, but the rest of the group doesn't know it. I went in to go and sub in. I was gonna sub in. Who did I tell you I was gonna sub? I was gonna sub. Yeah, Charbonnet, because I found out like late on Sunday, or like, I don't know. I didn't see the notification till like, it was literally like 9:50 or something like that. And here the game started at 10. And I was going to sub him in for Pollard. It was either Pollard or Hubbard, one of the two. And I didn't, it was too late. Like they'd already started warming up or whatever by the time I saw it. So I couldn't make the sub. And I'm like, well, crap. So if I would have made that sub, I mean, even though my other guys did fine, but I would have won. I would have had that record. But yeah, I mean, he put up. It's too bad for him. I mean, it was a heck of a performance by him.
Amazing.
Even better by my crew. But and the nice thing too, I had Derrick Henry on bye that week.
Yep.
Like he didn't even play, and I still put up that number. And like last week, I mean, we were kind of back to normal last week, and I think I still beat him by about 20 points. But they were, I think I put up 285 or something like that, and he was like 270 or something like that. So still pretty good, high scoring, solid rounds. But yeah, I felt good. I had to have it, or I would have lost. So
yeah, 658 points to 608. Incredibly high scoring, or 609, excuse me, Dan. Incredibly high scoring matchup between the 2 weeks. Both of those would have just absolutely destroyed me. And so, fantasy is a crapshoot. And when it comes to playoffs, you just don't know. Dan has just been on an absolute tear at the end of the season. He's sort of that team that you wanted to play in the first half of the year, but you do absolutely not want to play at the end of the year. But your team is built to beat just about anyone. And going back, I just wanted to make sure everyone knew the number that Thomas is talking about is his week 14 total was the second highest scoring game in the history of our league. That we've been doing this for 16 years now. He scored 374.8 points. And the record was, what did I say, 380? You were 6 points away. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think yep.
And again, if he subs in Zach Charbonnet, which he tried to do, Zach scored over 50 points, and so the difference there would have pushed him over and would have gotten him that record-breaking performance. So huge game. And again, Dan has a monster game that week as well, and only loses by like 20. So, or no, he ended up losing by closer to 50. No, 40, but still just absolutely monster games by both teams. And to do it when Derrick Henry, who is one of your best players, is on bye, is wild.
Yeah, I didn't want to draw Dan, and especially that. And I don't know if you remember, I think it was either Dan or Sam were the one that pointed it out at the very beginning of the season. He goes, watch out for week, I think 15 or 16.
14.
Look at these key.
Yes.
Week 14. Look at these key buys. And then I didn't even notice it. I didn't even pay attention to it drafting. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, like I had some key guys out.
Yeah.
You know, if it ended up panning out to where I was going to be in a situation, I knew it could cost me. But fortunately, it didn't.
And I don't know how much that really should affect someone's draft, right? Like, I guess if you're deciding, in hindsight, it's always 2020, but maybe if you're deciding between Saquon and Henry, and you see that that gives him a little bit more value because he's actually going to be available. Saquon would be available in the playoffs, but at the end of the day, you never know what's going to happen, and you want the best player that you can possibly get, and Henry has certainly been amazing. All right,
you probably have some questions about that, so I'll wait to comment on that one.
Oh, now it's a good time.
No, I'll wait. You got questions? It'll probably flush itself
out. Segment number 3: preview of the championship. Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple of numbers. This should be pretty obvious, but first number is 3,581. What is that number?
3,581. I mean, is that total points scored this season? That's
total points scored by you.
Okay.
Second number, 3,370, is how many points I've scored. So quick math there. The difference is 211. We are the 2 highest scoring teams in the league this year. And so we are going to see, which I think is quite rare when that ends up happening in the playoffs, of the 2 teams that have scored the most points. Now, before, I think Sam and I switched at the last game of the regular season. So Sam was obviously that fantasy owner that no one wants to be, who has scored second or third most points in the league and misses the playoffs. So that's
I lost the last week, which I think really messed things up. Like if I wouldn't have lost, I think it would have been 2 of the 4 would have been different managers, right?
Yeah, and I think Sam and I were talking about this as well towards the end of the season. I think it was he and I, but I think Dan, I can't really remember, but Dan beat me when he had Bowers and who is his other tight end that went absolutely bonkers, Taysom Hill. He and Bowers and Hill scored over 100 points between the 2 of them. Both of them were in the 50s, like absolutely insane. And his whole team, besides that, completely laid an egg, and he beat me because of those 2 guys. And then he just went on this tear, and he started winning games. I think he had the least likely percentage out of the top 5 to make the playoffs, and he ended up just winning essentially every game on his way to the playoffs. And then that, I think, pushed, for whatever reason, because Ned's record was so much better than Sam and I's. It really put us in. Sam and I it was going to be either he or I making the playoffs. And it came down to that last week. So that's what was crazy. No matter what, either the second or the third highest scoring team wasn't going to make the playoffs. There was no scenario in the last week where both of us were going to make the playoffs. So, which is a good scenario for the number 1 seed. You're watching that and you're like, yeah, let's eliminate the second highest scoring team in the league. That's great.
Yeah, right. For sure.
Okay. Players in the top 5 of their respected positions. How many top 5 players do you have on your roster? Just obviously guess. So we have 32 players on our rosters. I think we start 18 of them. I'm not sure.
Out of 5 positions, you said?
No. So out of all of the players on your team, who rank in the top 5 of their position? Essentially, how many top 5 players do you have on your roster?
Wow. I mean, I know both my quarterbacks are.
Yep.
I don't think Pollard and Hubbard aren't. I mean, so just Derrick Henry is 1, so that's 3. Chase is 4. Kelsey, I think 5. Buda Baker is 6. I mean, I'm guessing I probably have 7 or 8.
Yeah, you have 8
in the top 5.
Yep, you have 8 in the top 5. 5 on offense, which I think Kelsey, I don't believe is in the top 5. 2
which is
on
actually
defense.
surprising. Like my tie. I mean, he's usually, as you know, he usually helps carry my team, but
this is the first season
I need him to step up. But the thing that sucks is Mahomes is probably not going to play, so I don't know. That's going to hurt me. But
yeah,
I haven't had to rely on him yet, so that's good.
Yeah, and he has been a stalwart of your team for a very, very long time. A former keeper of the Black Panthers organization, I kept Kittle over him after Kittle's rookie season, and that wasn't a good decision. But I mean, Kittle hasn't been bad. But obviously, Kelsey has been insane after that time period. You have one special teamer. Your punter, I believe, is in the top 5. So I don't fault you for not knowing that. All right. So how many top 5 players do I have on my team?
So Hurts is one. Dude, Breece
I'm
Hall
impressed
is not.
that you know any of my team. Like I every time I go in a matchup, I'm like, who's on this team? And I like literally prepare for these things. But yeah, go ahead.
So yeah, Hurts. You probably have 3. I mean, you have Hurts, CeeDee Lamb, and who would be the third? Probably one of your linebackers. You always have stud linebackers.
I do.
You probably have 3 is my guess. Just thinking about it.
So
maybe 4.
I have 3 on offense, which isn't surprising if you've been following my team. Hurts, you got it. Hurts, Lamb, and then Kittle. The trade,
Kittle, okay.
Jordan Mason for Kittle. Kittle's has been fantastic, especially since that trade. 5 on defense. Both of my linebackers are in the top 5. I think
you have
both
5 on defense. Holy cow!
So out of the 6, right? So both linebackers, both defensive linemen, and then 1 defensive back, and then 1 on special team. I have 9.
Wow.
I have 9, and obviously the 3 on offense versus 5 on offense is where the difference is made, right? So getting into how skewed that statistic is and how irrelevant that statistic is, what is your average scoring? So if you add up all of your players' averages, what is your team average? Do you know that?
No, but I mean, I would guess probably about 290, probably somewhere in the 290 range. I had a couple low weeks, but I would say about 290, somewhere in there.
Yeah, 292, which I can't really remember a team that's ever had an average above 280. 292. So again, we don't have the statistics on hand, but remarkable, potentially historic average there, 292. My average, you want to guess?
I mean, you're the second highest scoring guy, so you got to be somewhere up there too, like 275, 280.
Yeah, 273, very close. If we could round up to 274, it's a 20-point difference. That's a 20-point difference. That's
crazy. Not a lot. That's close.
Well, but on average, I think that average, that's huge. Like, I think that's a big margin of error on an average. But yeah, because that's 16 weeks of players, or 15 weeks of players playing every single week. And so that average is like, 292 to 273. I think it's pretty big. Okay. More questions for you.
Light back on. Please.
Yeah, we've lost.
Thomas, she lost me.
She's production team is just.
Come on, what kind of studio is this?
Come on, all lights on. Question for Thomas: if you look at our head-to-head record, so if you match us up week 1 through 15, what is your record against me?
This week or this season?
Whole season, weeks 1 through 15.
So would we play each other 4 times? Did we play?
No. If we played each other every single week. Yeah. So you got to come up with a record that's 15 games.
I mean, it's probably, wow.
I can give you multiple choice if that would be
No,
easier.
I would say like 8-7, probably. Like it's got to be pretty close, I bet. Yeah, maybe a slight edge, 8-7, 8-7.
Yeah, 9-6. So close, very close. It's just one. That's one game off. Very close. Okay. Now, what is your head-to-head record against me over the last 9 weeks?
I mean, your team started doing well down the stretch. So, and I didn't have a bunch of huge weeks until this recently. So the last 9 weeks, not including the playoffs,
Including
the
the
first round.
playoffs.
Oh, well, I mean, I won two there, but
Yes, you
so
did.
I would say I'd probably say like 3-6, maybe. You
Yeah,
with
4 and
you, I
5.
was
4 and 5.
okay.
Yeah, that was very close. Very close. Underestimated yourself both times, which is a humble owner. It's a humble owner in the midst of a historic season.
Well,
4 and 5.
I'm kind of reading between the lines here, Jake. You're trying
Sure.
to set up that
Yeah.
I've just had this stellar season,
Yeah.
just how amazing my team was, and then all of a sudden you beat me,
There's
and it's
no
the
way.
upset of the
There's no
century.
way. This is simply to show that fantasy football, you could take any stats and you can come up with anything to fuel any narrative you want. I personally, I don't think this is even close, but I can come up with a couple of different statistics to say it has been close. But think about the last 4 weeks, 13 and 14. No, 12 and 13 were really good weeks for me and really bad weeks for you. You scored like just over 200 in one of those weeks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that skews a lot. But yes, the last 2 weeks that is the Northwest folklore that we've been seeing for the majority of the year. And what a time to do it against an opponent who is bringing those are the 2 best weeks anyone in the league has had outside of you all year. So exciting semifinals. I am not confident at all that the championship game is going to be anywhere that close. I mean, if you just look at the last 2 weeks, you would have beat me by more than 100 points over those last 2 games. So,
But you said it. You hit it on the head, man. That's the thing that's hard with fantasy football is there. Yes, is there skill involved? Yes, there is. But there's so many variables that are out of your control. I mean,
it's a
like,
crapshoot.
I mean, so that it's yeah. So I mean, it's cool to see like yeah when you do well and stuff and have a chance to win it. But ultimately, like, it's a crapshoot, really.
Yeah,
I mean,
it can be.
again, you have to draft well and you have to have good players, but guys can lay a Cooper Cup. I mean, he has 0 points
That's
for me.
wild.
Like that
Wild.
could have cost me. Like I saw that and I'm like, but luckily he had Brock Purdy and then Jennings also. I mean, he had 8 points, and I think my I had a kicker in that game maybe, and he got
Yeah.
9 points. And I'm like, well, luckily my kicker outperformed his quarterback and one of his better receivers.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
I dodged the bullet there. But it just takes a couple guys to lay an egg and you lose. And
Yeah. Yeah.
it is nice that it's a 2 week. The 1 week
That's
playoffs is tough. So
That's exactly what I was going to say, and that's why we've done it. We've always done it that way, is because I didn't want it to be as much as we could control a crapshoot. I wanted the best team to win, and there's like no one can argue with me. A 2-week playoff matchup, the best team's going to win. You can't, you lay an egg 2 weeks in a row, then yeah, you deserve to lose. But everyone lays an egg 1 week. I mean, that happens. But 2 weeks, you come out of that matchup and you're the better team. And I've always liked that. I've always liked that.
yeah, me too.
All right. What are 3 things that must happen for you to lose this matchup? What has to go wrong?
Well, other than injuries, like early
Yeah.
injuries,
Early injuries, good Lord. Those are
but I think, I mean, they like my guys that have continually performed for me and obviously performed exceptionally well the last 2 weeks. I mean, it would be Josh Allen not playing well. Jamar Chase not getting a bunch of targets. And then Derrick Henry, I mean, he's got a tough matchup week 1. Like I mean, he's got a tough matchup, but I think, like I could easily, and this is one of the things that's been surprising of my team is, so I don't have, so I actually had put some good trade offers early on because I wanted Brock Bowers bad. And
as we all do.
I could not get him, and I tried him all early on, and I felt like some very, like, at the time, and it was before he started performing as well as he has, because I was like bummed I didn't draft him, but I just didn't have the money to pay for him. But like I was trying to get him, and what I was offering at the time, I felt like, wow, I can't believe he turned that down, but hindsight, it was smart on his part. But one thing, like Hubbard and Pollard have really done well for me. Like, I don't think I had like an idea. I have 2 fantasy football teams, and I drafted Derrick Henry early in both of them because I felt like, he was finally on a good team and the dude's a freak. So I knew I felt like he was going to still do really well. But get this, my keeper running back, I have not started since like week 5.
Travis Etienne.
Yeah, I mean he's like not even like,
garbage.
He's not even. Yeah, I wouldn't even. I have 2 backups, which, thanks for letting. Well, I knew I was gonna get anybody free agent because I still have money. So
$1. I saw the dollar transactions. That's all you needed.
I did that on purpose. I did on purpose because at first I thought, I was like, oh, I'm gonna throw like $20 in there or whatever, because we can't get free agents anymore.
Right.
So but I did it on purpose, just to spite you, Jake. I'm actually surprised you didn't put in bids for a couple of those guys. For Ford, I was surprised you didn't put a bid on.
I had Ford last year. I've driven that Ford before, and I don't know. And like, you look at his numbers before Chubb was healthy, the beginning of the year, and now you got a quarterback change. I looked at him, and I looked at who I had, and you're looking for upside. You're looking for, but like Jerome Ford is in a perfect situation. His situation can't get any better, but I just don't think he's that difference maker in terms of talent that he's gonna do. Like, I don't know. I just didn't. But also, obviously knew that I wasn't gonna end up with him. But
don't get me wrong. I'm not gonna play him. The only reason I got him is so you couldn't.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And again, I don't know. And we can go into my running back conundrum this week. It's like literally the first week all year where I've had a decision to make it running back. But I, too, have not been able to play my keeper running back this year. And at the times where I have, he just hasn't been who we thought he was. And I'm hoping that that's because of Aaron Rodgers. And he's never gotten more than 20 carries, more than like 16 carries a game. And last year, I mean, in his short career, he's gotten a ton of carries, and he's done a lot more with them. So maybe he's just the kind of runner where he needs to get a lot of carries to get going in a game. But Aaron Rodgers has been tough to watch all year, and I think that the gripe on him is that he's running this archaic offense where he's checking at the line. He's using almost no pre-snap motion. He's almost using no. What is it called when you I love this one.
I don't know what you're doing.
It's like, it's the easiest concept in football when you are fake the handoff to the running back and then you drop back to pass. Play action. Play action. He's using the league low play action rating, league low pre-snap motion, all the stuff that like modern NFL teams do. He's just going to the line, reading the defense, and trying to do what he's always done, and he's been really good at it, but it's just not working. And so I don't know. Breece Hall has been unplayable, and he's not playing this week either.
Well, I mean, you're right. And the other thing which has helped me too, Devontae Adams.
Yep.
Kiefer's
last
boy,
week.
but
Last week
oh yeah,
it was
he
insane.
killed it. Well, they're that's the other thing that's hurt Brees Hall is that I mean the Jets have nothing to lose, so they're just letting he's slinging it, right? Rodgers is
Yeah,
just throwing it. I mean, it's
yeah,
throwing downfield, like so. I think
yeah,
he's kind of like, screw this, I'm just gonna show I can still play, and
yeah,
so there's no like check downs. They're not gonna. They're not dinking and dunking to Hall,
yeah.
and that's where he was good because he could run and also he'd catch the ball out of the backfield. So
Right.
that, but you're right, like that. We thought, looking back in the league, like we thought Brees Hall would be,
Better.
end up, especially with McCaffrey hurt, and like that was
Yeah,
going to be kind of push you over the top. Which obviously you're still in this position, but he's not been a guy for you. So
yeah,
kudos to
yeah.
you for building a strong, deep roster.
Yeah, yeah, I guess. But that certainly was. This is not the plan. Like if you'd have told me, "Hey, you're going to make the playoffs, but Brees is going to be your fourth best running back, and you're not going to play him in the playoffs," I would have said absolutely no way. But yeah, I mean, again, Brees Hall has been great with horrible quarterbacks, and so you thought, oh, this year or last year before the injury, the Achilles injury, he's going to take another step forward with a good quarterback, and that's just been the exact opposite. So we'll see what happens next year with Brees, and I'll have a decision to make. I think the scenario, I think you gave essentially the things that needed to happen for you to lose were Derrick Henry and Josh Allen and probably Jamar Chase. That's who you said originally. Those three guys need to lay an egg. Like if I have any chance, obviously Josh Allen scored over 50 the last 2 weeks. He's been insane. Jamar Chase he's I think average 5 points better than the second best wide receiver all year. Like it hasn't even been close. A lot like Tyreek Hill last year, right? Where you essentially have a fourth running back that's scoring way more points than most teams RB2 or 3, which is just it's a cheat code. It changes everything. And again, you going for Bowers is because you, of all people, know the importance of a tight end or two tight ends, as I always remember that year that you had Darren Waller and Travis Kelce. That won you the championship. That was 2020. That was
Yep.
2020. So you know the cheat codes are there, and those are hard to find. A tight end and wide receiver, but the wide receiver position, as Sam will tell you, is hard to find because Tyreek Hill, what did he do this year? And the only obviously Tua was hurt for a couple of those games, but outside of that, he's been absolute unplayable at times, and he's been healthy. So again, finding that wide receiver that's the cheat code, I think, is even harder than finding the top flight tight end. But getting your hands on that top flight tight end is worth sending some crazy trades. So do you remember the like craziest trade you sent, Dan, for Bowers?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. So I'm pretty sure I offered him like a 3-for-1. I want to say I offered him ETN and Hubbard, I think, together with it might have been Devontae, it might have been another receiver. But that was before he got traded. Yeah, I mean it was I offered him because his running backs were not great.
Yeah.
And he needed running back help. And so I was offering, and it might have been a 2-for-1, like two of my, like at the time, starting running backs for Bowers, who hadn't been killing it yet. But it was kind of like I could see like his target share, and I knew he was a stud. But also hoping, like, and I know why he didn't want to give him up, because he's his keeper for a long time and
forever.
Like right. Yeah. So like, and I knew like Kelsey is not, like, he's been a keeper for me for a long time, but he's not keeper material anymore. So I wanted to, which, all of us know, like um, you want to try to get those keepers and, the guys that, are going to be good for a long time, which Jamar Chase did not perform for me last year.
No.
Like but here's the thing. I was worried about him because, he was a contract holdout the beginning of the season.
Yeah,
but and he bet on himself, and which to me, I feel like, because he's a competitor, it's why he's doing as well as he is. He like I'm going to prove to you that I'm going to get paid, and he's then going to end up getting more money than he would have
way more.
Yeah. So I mean, because he's a stud, but also I mean, so is Burrow. It's too bad because I like the Bengals and I would like to see him winning, but their
Yeah.
defense is just hasn't been
Oh man.
good. So
Yeah. It's been bad. It's been bad.
because Chase Brown's
Yeah.
good too, and kudos to Dan on that. Like having Chase Brown, like
Yep.
I mean, he killed it those last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. So many things take us back to the draft. Bowers, do you remember what he was drafted for?
like around $30, maybe.
19.
No way, dude.
So
How did I not spend
and
more money on him then? Dang.
what is the most for you? You might not have had money, and I don't think you did at that time. For me, I made about 5 different tight end mistakes, and I don't know. I'll never understand why. But I came away from this draft without a second tight end, which I was one of my top priorities going into the draft was to get 2 stud tight ends, and I didn't. And yeah, so I had plenty of money. But I will tell you this, and I think this is where the depth piece came in. For whatever reason, this year I was so high on so many backup running backs, and they have really panned out. Like Bucky Irving was very high on it. Like I needed Bucky Irving. I needed Tank Bigsby, who hasn't been super great, but there for a while was on a tear. There was just a bunch of guys that I knew that I wanted pocket change left because I didn't want to get out of the draft without them. And Braylon Allen was another, just as an insurance policy. Haven't been able to play him all year. Rico Dowdle was another one. So going back to this question, things that need to go wrong for you to lose this matchup, and I think obviously Josh Allen. So they're playing in New England. I haven't seen the weather report, but like my hope obviously is a blizzard rolls into New England, right? And they have to give James Cook, who they've been reluctant to give a lot of touches to. They just have to, and this happened a couple of weeks ago in Buffalo, and I think he actually, no, he still didn't. It was the San Francisco game, 14 carries. This is my problem with James Cook, but as you know, those 2 players, last week they both had a good game. But I essentially need the focus of the offense to be James Cook, which it hasn't been all year, and then away from Josh Allen. And again, that would be sort of a miracle scenario because he got 17 carries, 20 carries once, but that was week 5 and 7. I'm sure you've watched a bunch of the Bills. They really like the other 2 backs, and Ray Davis and then Ty Johnson. They give a lot of dump downs too, a lot of screen pass plays too. They like their 3 running backs, and they sort of divvy the touches out too. So I need them to really just focus on James Cook for a week, but I don't think it's going to happen.
It's the other thing too that I like again about Jamar. He's got something to play for. I mean, same with Josh Allen. He's MVP on the line. So I think I think he's really shooting for that. And I think the Bills want him to get it too. So, that I got that a little bit in my favor where I think they might, even if he's the nice thing, which is why he's been scoring so well. I think he has 4 touchdowns, I think in the last 2 games, rushing touchdowns in the last 2 games, just because they've been kind of giving it to him on the goal line, which has been nice too. So,
so I think that'll continue because I agree they're definitely wanting him to get the MVP, and he's certainly played. You don't have those 2 games back to back and then say, you know what, let's change things up a little bit and let's take the foot off the gas. No, he's on a historic tear right now. So would he be the next question is who are you most confident about, and is that Josh Allen or is that Jamar Chase, Derrick Henry?
That's the other thing that's tough. I mean, football and fantasy, it's so situational. Like let's say, things go really well for the Bills and all of a sudden they jump out on, but I think they all have some like pretty tough games. Like New England's no patty cake. They've been playing well, in New England. Like the nice thing too is like my good teams are in the playoff hunt, and they're playing for something and they can either win, for home field or, different types of things other than, Jamar doesn't really, but I feel like he just wants to prove everybody wrong. And I mean, I think if I had to guess, like who's my guy that is most reliable, it would probably be Josh Allen. I mean, because Derrick Henry, I mean, he didn't have a great week last week. Lamar could just be the guy. So again, it just kind of depends on the game situation, really. Like, I mean, I could pick and choose a guy, but a guy that's been really reliable and he just got paid for is Budda Baker. If you look on the defensive side, like, I'm hoping he could to get me 15 plus, hopefully. And if you get that out of your safety or your linebacker, which you get out consistently out of your linebacker, you're getting 15 plus, both of them. So those things they add up. And I know you and Kiefer always talk about does defense matter? Well, clearly it does. I mean, you compare obviously your top players versus my top players. I would take 5 of the top offensive players just because they're naturally scoring more. But I mean, if you were to average your defensive scores to everybody else, I bet you're crushing everyone. Yeah. So defense does matter. I do think that, and I think that's why your teams are always strong, because you always have good defenses.
And I think that it's easy to do because most people overlook it, right? And so I think there's a lot of value in defense because you can spend a little and no one else is really gonna, push you up higher. But I think what defense does is it creates a safe floor, right? Like if you know that those guys, I think the standard deviation, the variation of those defensive players is quite small. They're not like, I mean, I guess defensive back, you can have a guy score like Budda Baker over 20, and then the next week he gets 4. Talking about situational, right? Like it's hard to predict defensive backs scores, but linebackers, they're pretty damn consistent. And so when you can get that consistency, you have a safe floor, and then it's all about your offense creating that high ceiling. And so you're not losing when you have a good defense. You're putting yourself in a position to be able to just compete every single week. But that's obviously your offense is what's winning you games, but your defense is keeping you from losing games, and at least in fantasy. Good. If I had to answer this question for myself, I think Puka Nacua. And again, this guy, like, obviously frustrating with him being injured for the majority of the year. But dude, you watch those Rams games, they love this guy. Like
he's a stud, dude. He's a stud.
Unbelievable. It's unbelievable how good he is and how just out of absolute nowhere. And he knows it. Like he's every single reception his rookie year and this year, it's like this dude expects to be this good.
The other thing that's been beneficial for you, they're starting to run him. He's getting carries.
5 carries
consistent, consistent
5
carries. Yeah.
For a wide receiver. That's wild, especially for an outside. It's not like he's a gadget player like Curtis Samuel or something. He's an outside threat. I mean, obviously they move him around the formation, but the dude's he's not your typical wide receiver that's getting carries.
Right.
So he's actually averaging more points than CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb is the 3rd overall wide receiver. His average is 18.3, but Puka Nacua's average 19.7. Obviously missed the first 6 games to injury, and then he comes back, tears it up in week 8, and then leaves the game against Seattle early with only 1 catch. So if you take the 2 games that he didn't finish out, his average is significantly higher. And so he's sort of, didn't do particularly well in week 15, but so sorry, it was 5 carries in week 14 against Buffalo, but he got 2 carries last week. But that Buffalo game, 14 targets, 5 carries, 19 touches. It's pretty wild.
It is. Wow.
All right. So I guess the reverse of that would be what player on my roster gives you the most to fear?
I mean, you got some explosive guys. I would have said Puka Nacua. I think Jalen Hurts he could easily go for 50, right? I mean, he can. They throw the ball. I mean, their offense has been good. Kellen Moore, props Kellen Moore.
Yep.
He's the Cowboys reject.
That's right.
Killing it for the Eagles now.
Yeah, and Chargers reject.
And, but go Prosser Mustangs.
Yeah, Prosser.
Shout out to Prosser, the old CWAC juggernaut. That one's for Tim. But
Tim. Yeah, Tim. You hear that, Tim?
but he'll hear it. He'll hear
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think those guys, and then again, I just I can't emphasize enough how like you said, you're consistent your defense is, and those guys that score. To me, it always seems like you find a way to have some obscure guy that hardly anybody knows about that will come out of nowhere and end up being good, and then he becomes a name somewhere. So props to you on that. You usually are able to find some guys, and I think has a little bit to do with you working in a classroom with maybe 5 students. So
I immediately was like, I spend way too much time. Like the only way you find the diamond in the rough is if you spend way too much time doing this. And
but hey,
that's why you're
that's why you have 8. That's why you're an 8-time champ. So
that's right. That's right.
But no, I think you have. I mean, clearly you have a good roster, and I think for me the scariest thing is, like I said earlier, it doesn't really matter how good my team is. Like, I mean, it's just we'll roll the dice out there and see who wins.
Yeah. I mean, if I had to answer this question, there would be like 5 guys, right? Like that's the difference between my team and yours. Again, it's sort of like the ceiling and the floor. Although you have had the most consistent floor, the highest floor as well. So your team can do it all. But yeah, Jaden Daniels. I mean, Jaden Daniels again playing the Eagles this week, but and he hasn't been. I mean, 30 and 30 and 38. He's been great the last 3 weeks he's played, right? He went sort of
Well, and
through a mini slump.
he would be the guy that I thought like, hey, I wanted him.
Yeah.
And I thought he was really good, but you never know with rookie quarterbacks, right?
Never know.
New offensive scheme, new head coach, like, and a defensive head coach, but Cliff Kingsbury is their OC. So I know that air raid and throwing the ball, and
but he's done way better.
Daniel's a runner, so
right.
Yeah, he's
obviously most important thing. But he's doing way better than Kyler Murray did in Cliff's offense, right? Like,
right.
And especially in his rookie season. I had Kyler his rookie season in Arizona. And Cliff has obviously learned a thing or two about how to run an offense in the NFL, and that change has been dramatic and amazing. Those first like 10 weeks were historic for anybody, much less a rookie quarterback. So Jaden Daniels, and just the way that I sort of looked at the draft, I didn't want to prioritize. I thought, that there was going to be good value in the back end of the quarterbacks, and you spent $38, and every single one of those dollars is worth it. He's probably worth closer to 50. But again, it's a huge risk. It's a huge gamble that paid off for you because it's a rookie quarterback. You just don't know. And in LSU, he took some huge hits. Like I wasn't sure that he could sustain a full season in the NFL running the way he does. But dude, unbelievable pick, because he has been, if you have the second and fourth quarterbacks in the league, then you can get away with a lot of other roster deficiencies. But then you throw in the second best running back and the number 1 wide receiver and the number 5, Travis Kelce is top 5. He's number 5 tight end. You're I don't want to say unbeatable, but you're getting to that. You're getting to that territory where you have built a team that is incredibly difficult to beat, because any of those guys could go for 30, 40, 50 points. And it's crazy good roster, crazy good draft. I knew it from the night that we drafted that you had a solid roster, but obviously you don't know how Jaden Daniels is going to pan out, and that's been remarkable. So last thing we have to do is final prediction.
Well, so like total score, or
I don't know.
Like,
I don't know how we want to do this, but I mean, we could obviously use last week's example, right? You scored, if we want to do points, you scored 600 and 658. Dan scored 609. I scored 533. And Ned scored 431. Ned's wife, Caitlin, gave birth to triplets the week that the first week that we played on Wednesday of that first week. And
congrats, Ned. Wow.
Yeah. Ned's up to 5 now. He's tied Thomas for the league leading number of children.
Welcome to the Ocho Cinco Club.
That's right. Yeah.
That's awesome. So, cool. That's congrats to Ned. That's awesome.
Yeah. And I think that was partly why he didn't sub out Ladd McConkley, because he was out that game and he didn't have a sub. And I'm sure that he was a little bit busy that weekend. So thanks to the triplets for helping me reach the championship matchup. But anyway, so we had a range, a wide range, right? I beat Ned by 102, and you would have beat me by 155.
Wow.
So what
I did is not that's not going to be. I think I need to score at least 600 points to beat you.
And I think 600 does. I think 600 wins. Knowing my team, watching, like going over the last 2 weeks, we definitely, we played really good. Is what I'm saying. We certainly could have played better. We certainly could have played worse, but it's gonna, if we score 533 again, I'll be happy. And I will probably lose by at least 70. So
no, I think you will. I think you're gonna be in the 575s, the 580s is my prediction.
Yeah.
And I think I think to be safe, I need to score. I think I need to have my average. I need to be the 290s to 300s both weeks.
Yeah. All right. So we'll say Thomas goes down with his prediction. Thomas wins 600 to 580.
585.
585. All right. Yeah, I'm just going over my.
But that's what I'm saying. I need to get that to win. Yeah, I don't know if it's going to happen. I mean, I think I could. I think I could. So so let's say if what'd you say my average was 292?
292. Is that what it was? Yep, 292.
So give me 9. Yeah. So 590 to 580.
Okay, so 590 to 580. You're saying that you win by 10 points. Wow. That would be great.
I think it's going to be close. I don't know.
That would be fun.
It's going to be close.
Yeah. I mean, this is just gut intuition. No one knows. Looking at my matchup with Ned, this is pretty sad. Ned in week 14 scores 221 points. Just not what you want in the first week of the matchup, no matter what your opponent scores. The second week scores 210 points.
Oh,
yeah. So again, very busy couple of weeks for Ned. Probably wasn't tending to his fantasy team as much as he would have liked to, but not a good showing weeks 14 through 15.
Here's my question. How long do you think until Ned actually gets to listen to this? Because Ned has triplets. Unless it's one of those late nights, because I'm bet those babies are up on different schedules.
Oh my gosh.
And man, could you imagine?
I don't want to imagine. I don't want to imagine.
Ned, man. Oof.
Yeah, we're thinking about you. We're thinking about you. I mean, I only have 3, and they're at obviously different ages, and 2 of them should be at easy enough ages, and it's still just. It's a grind. So Ned, we're thinking about you, brother. If we could take some fantasy points away from our teams and give that to you in happiness and sleep, we would certainly do that. All right. So going back to my matchup, week 14, I did okay. I scored 280. Week 15, 253. So not great, but I didn't obviously need to do a whole lot there. Against Ned. So I'm hoping that I score 280 and 280, which would put us very close to your prediction, right? Like if I just score 280 and 280, Let's ask ChatGPT real quick. 280. Can you do the math fast enough? Can you beat ChatGPT?
560.
Nice, 560. That's why he's a principal and why I'm a social studies teacher still.
I thought you were asking it like an actual question.
Yeah. No. When it comes to fantasy or the podcast, I don't do any math live on air. I've learned my lesson. All right, so I'm going to say 590 to 560. That's my prediction.
Oof.
Yeah,
man. Yeah, I mean,
again,
but
I'll
even
be happy.
those are good scores. Those are good.
Yeah, those are good scores. If I score 560, I will be happy, and that's what 30 more points than I scored in my last matchup. So I will be happy with that.
You'll do that. You'll do that.
Now, before I want to leave, I want to go back to a trade last year where I traded for Derrick Henry. Remember that?
Yes.
And we had a lively conversation about Derrick Henry's value at that time. and it brought us to this moment, because going into this draft, I thought Derrick Henry is washed up. He's 31, 32, which is like an absolute dinosaur age. We talk about 28 as being the running back cliff, right?
Especially if you consider how many times he's carried the ball in his career.
Yes, at Alabama, then at Tennessee, where he was their only source of offense for I don't know how many years, right? I watched those Tennessee games last year, and maybe it was just the offense and he was just running into a pile. But I thought I was watching someone who was a plotter, who couldn't break tackles, who didn't have the top end speed to break a long run anymore. Like, I thought I knew who Derrick Henry was, the age, and then everyone. And again, Saquon Barkley proved me wrong too. But the everyone gets so hyped with these second contract running backs going to new teams. Everyone just overhypes. And I thought, I was like, I'm not touching either one of those backs. I'm not going anywhere near either one of those backs. And who is the number 1 and number 2 running backs this season? Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry. And you, again, you read it right. You saw the juice still left in. You had a correct value on him last year and correct value on him this year. And it might be the difference between you and me, whoever's going to win this championship.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like you said, we talked about a little bit earlier, you got to take some risks, and Derrick Henry was one of them, but I really did. I was high on him. I've been high on him. He's, they talk about, LeBron, obviously, my passion for LeBron. Right. I see a lot of similar traits in Derrick Henry. They talk about how he takes care of his body, but he just, I mean, the dude is a competitor. I like him a lot. Like, he just seems like a good dude, good teammate. Yeah.
Yep.
But also the Ravens are good. Like, I mean, always they're a franchise, like, the Steelers, like, they're teams that are going to be good. They're going to get the most out of their talent. Their guys are going to get coached up. They always have a good O-line. They always have a good defense. And then if you're playing with Lamar, I mean, how can you just key on Derrick Henry? I mean, you can't. Yep. So, I know his shelf life is not much longer, but I'll tell you what, yeah, absolutely. And I needed a keeper running back, and I can't wait to keep him for next year.
And I mean, think if the Ravens turned Gus Edwards and Justice Hill into 2 starting quality running backs in fantasy, then the sky was the limit for Derrick Henry. I mean, the offensive line and the system, the way they want to run the ball, it was, but I didn't see it. I was wrong, and it's going to cost me a championship.
We'll see. We'll see.
All right, man. Well, fun talking to you. I was hoping to keep this under 30 minutes, but as Kiefer and I know, an hour is the shortest we can do. So it's been a lot of fun. Good luck to you. Make sure you get plenty of rest. Send some DMs to your players. Get them motivated, and we'll talk to you hopefully maybe next week. Maybe not. Probably not.
My guys they're in the holiday spirit. And they're ready to go. They're ready to jingle all the way.
All right, great. All right, man. Thanks for coming on.
All right. Yep. Take care. Merry Christmas, guys.
Yep. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays, guys. See ya.